Hi everybody, it's Grace. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. An exercise that I offer in an online program that I do once a year called the Eating Peace process is a really interesting way to deep dive, taking a look at the voice in your mind that seems to want to eat or offer all kinds of suggestions, pesky, irritating, not what you really want to follow, and you sort of know it already. But it can be extremely critical and mean. I've spoken about it from time to time, so you may have heard me say it before. I once heard the great author Annie Lamott speak about her addiction recovery process, and she has a lot of wonderful and hilarious things to say about that in all kinds of forms. But to this, that there's a part of the mind, a voice in the mind that seems to be constantly and deeply self-critical. And some people, it's very mean. And she described that as KFCK radio. You turn on the radio, KFCK, you can imagine what that stands for, cussing. And that's what the voice that you're going to hear. You know, you're tuned in to that kind of manner and orientation and speech about you. And it's almost as if, so what the exercise that I have to do, that I offer people, is this. And you can do this today. You're going to have to sit down, and it requires a little journal writing. That's the easiest way of all to do that, to be more thorough with it. But see if it has a character that you could actually personify in that voice. It's the one that says, why bother with all this? Who cares? Just go ahead and eat. Eat the food. It doesn't matter. I've eaten every day for the last year or every weekend. It doesn't matter. I don't seem to be able to stop, so I'll just go and find something and start eating the bowl of that thing or whatever. Dive into it. Let's go to the store. Come on, let's go. It can take on different kinds of personalities. A really depressed, despairing personality, which I have been familiar with. You know, it's sort of like, why bother? The whole thing's a big mistake. This is just, I have no idea how to ever get past this. I'm just going to have to eat. Doesn't matter. It's very sort of Eeyore, only 10x on worst case scenario of despair and depression. You know, real hopelessness about your condition and your situation when it comes to this food and eating thing, or self-acceptance. And then another one could be very, very aggressive. But I would have people in this exercise, so you can do this now, today, consider a name that you would give that person and what that person might even look like. It might even be different than a human. You know, it might be sort of a combination of human and werewolf or something weird like that. People have had all different kinds of characters that have shown up. You know, some sort of crazy uncle that lives in the attic, and not to be too weird about all the things that have appeared, but it just comes into people's minds, this sort of creative identity. Many, many, many years ago, I had a nightmare that I woke up from. It was in the middle of really exploring and learning about my own disordered eating process, what was off balance, and I was visiting a therapist weekly, and then I began to be involved in a group, but barely. And I had this incredible nightmare that I wrote down. It was so vivid, where I was in an old building here in the city I live in, Seattle. It was an old building I'd actually been in that was beautiful, almost a historical site, where I took acting classes. And there was huge, wide stairs that went up to the second floor and the third floor. And there was floors up beyond anything I'd ever been to before. And in this dream, I was being chased by an absolutely enraged, hugely heavy-set woman, like almost the fat lady in the circus type woman, with curly red hair and angry, angry eyes and light skin, very light skin. And she was chasing me up the stairs. You know, and there was different pieces and parts and imagery in that dream that were quite shocking and frightening. But really, that's the main thing I need to tell you here. There was my character. It was like somebody who, and she was chasing me, almost the part of me that was the real whole me, the whole self. But she was the one who would do anything to get more food and to just eat the food and not really understand anything more deeply about the emotional experience of being a human, or maybe what had gone off or awry in the first place that I would even want to eat, or just the part of me that would just shut her down and feel stronger. In the nightmare, she was chasing me. But I could sort of dream the dream onward, which is really a Carl Jungian kind of exercise learned from different psychotherapy that under the realm of Carl Jung. I'm not super familiar with all of the work and the exercises that a Jungian would do, but dreaming the dream when you're awake, seeing this person, this character that comes to mind. And you can notice in a most easy, simple, clear way, that character is not all of you. It is not you. It is not everything about you. It is not the whole part of you that's here all the time, that's the fully conscious you. There is just some part that seems to believe that getting something to eat, overeating, grazing, trying to starve yourself, let's start a new diet, and let's go really, really hungry and kind of flip to the opposite. That would fit in there. That this kind of character is the one that kind of steps in when you don't really know what to do, or you feel confused, or you're touching a sense of fear or powerlessness, or some difficult emotion, or some sense of emptiness in the moment. So here comes this character, and you can almost separate them a little. I mean, you see that as you give them a personality and maybe even name that person. And as if you're having a conversation with them right there. If you're familiar with the work of Byron Katie, which I mention often for the simple self-inquiry, you can actually write a worksheet on that person, on that character that seems to be inside of you. But most importantly, for just what I'm sharing with you here today, is that character is smaller than the whole consciousness of you. That character is inside of you. It is created, somehow it appears in your mind creatively using your imagination. But it is not the whole of you. And you don't have to follow what it says, We might say, that'd be a little crazy to do what some imaginary character is telling you to do. That would be crazy. But that's what we all do all the time. Here comes a voice, and here comes a thought and an idea. And it's almost using the words you. I mean, sometimes we'll say, I should, take out the trash. Oh, I should really do that. I should do the laundry or whatever. But sometimes this character actually shows up in your own mind as you should take out the trash, like somebody's talking to you. And we all have that. And we're not crazy. It's just in the mind, there's voices, there's characters. So you can almost get to know that one that seems like such a monster and befriend it, welcome it in, see what else it has to say. For the purposes of this exercise today, not to make it too complex or intricate or detailed, which some characters, some of your personalities might be very, very brilliantly smart and like to make things really complex and detailed. And this is just a simple, here's this person for the purposes of this today, to get this. That is a character that is inside of you and smaller than you. It's not the all of you. It sometimes seems like we're taken over by that voice, but not really. You're the one in really the driver's seat, in a way. You might have heard that, maybe that's been shared with you before, that kind of metaphor, where who's in the driver's seat, and it seems like the one that wants to eat and binge is taking over the driver's seat. I used to literally do that. I'd be driving my car around with food in the front passenger seat, and maybe even hide it under a coat or something as I went through another drive-through. and ordered something, looking calm and poised, and so that nobody could tell that I was freaking out on the inside, binge eating and ordering from the window, and then adding it to the pile of food, with wrappers and all kinds of stuff in my car. And so literally, it's almost as if I allowed that personality come over and take over. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, I was acting out of it. But all the time, even then when I look back and I see that kind of experience in that moment, that I can remember now, I can see it from the perspective of the whole person who observes. There's always an observer watching the whole thing that's going on. It's not like you're just totally, absolutely lost, even though I know it can feel like we went underwater. We're like, I don't know what, we'll have that experience. I don't know what happened, but I was just standing in front of the refrigerator starting to eat right out of the fridge. But there is something that happened. There is a consciousness. If you slow down and relax and just become interested, wondering about what in you would be willing to recede and let the other one that feels stronger, like it's got a loud mouth, take over. And just notice, is that true? The suggestion comes in from the quirky character that's the one that wants to just eat. The suggestion comes in, hey, you feel like binge eating. You feel like eating right now. I know you just ate a meal, but let's eat more. You have to follow that. Is that true? Just sit on your couch and hold still. Stay rooted to wherever you are and notice who's actually in charge. It doesn't mean you have to have a controlled sense of being in charge, like you're in the military and you have great willpower and you have lots of discipline. It's just simply noticing we have lots of voices in our heads and ideas and suggestions that happen all the time, and we don't follow all of them. What's that all about? Just sit still. You sat still with that character speaking to you. It does not mean that you have to follow it. It does not mean you have to do what they're saying. It does not mean that they're the dictator and you're just a complete subservient follower, slave to that voice. It feels that way actually when you do follow. Sometimes you come up for air and there's a freedom and there's a sense of lightness, and it all stops and pauses for a while. So getting to know that character instead of wanting to cut it completely out of your life. It's like all or nothing. Listen to it fully. Just give in to the voices, or try to shove it away or destroy it or kill it, which has kind of got a violence to it. Maybe it has something important to say that you haven't been listening to, and if you did, have a dialogue back and forth. So that's the second part of the exercise. First part is just to have a picture of it, maybe write down what this person looks like, what their name is, what's one of their primary things that they have to say, and then have a dialogue and go back and forth with that person, almost like you're writing a script on the journal, on the piece of paper. Here's what they have to say, and here's what you have to say. You, with an open mind, saying, okay, I'm listening, and by the way, I'm not going to do everything you say. I'm going to listen to what you have to suggest, but I'm not going to do it. And you can ask, now, why did you make that suggestion? Why do you think that would be a better idea? Or just see what comes as you go back and forth, having this dialogue with this character. All right? Very amazing and beautiful, the brilliance and the imagination of the mind, the creativity of the mind. You may be more filled with imagination and creativity than you realize. I find that it's true that my stories of stress and harm and harshness and powerlessness and what I need to be afraid of are very strong, and they're living in my mind all in one moment, but they are stories. Is it true that I'm not safe? Is it true that I need some food to feel better or more comfortable or more solid? Is it true that I'm really that bored and empty in this moment? Is it true that I'm have no power to take action or not take action. Can't absolutely know these things are true. They may be a story that's running in the mind. All right. Let me know how it goes. Let me know if you have any questions. Lots of love. Bye-bye.